Hello again, everybody. It's Magic Monday, and we have with us, as usual, our beautiful Bryce. How are you, beautiful? How are you doing? It's so happy. I'm so happy because yesterday, this time, I was chatting to as well, you and that beautiful Jamie Soleil.
Yep.
And today I have you on and talking about some more
Juicy stuff. I think we should call this Magical Mercury Monday because we were just laughing before we came on about all the little pranks Mercury likes to pull.
I was kicked out. Yeah, I've been kicked out several times. Apparently, I was having load shedding at 4, but it sounds like the electricity's still on. It's now 4:07. So I was getting myself all geared up with different internets and what have you, and managed to kick myself out a few times, and eventually I'm fine. So let's hope.
Just have to laugh about it. It's just you just have this is what happens. I got my internet went down the middle of our episode yesterday. It just this is just what Mercury does when it's doing its pranks. So it's just make sure you just gotta laugh with it because this too shall pass. But yes, if any of us get kicked off, guys, in the middle of the show, it's Mercury. So
which reminds me, I better make Morné co-host in case something dodgy happens somewhere down the line. So
no one raptured. Mercury just went flick and we flicked off. So you just have to laugh about it because it happens 3 or 4 times a year we go through this. And Mercury, it's actually kind of a nice time. It can be a challenging time, but it's a good time too because it's a time to watch what's coming up in you as well and to see like where you need to work. And it's kind of like that a check-in, that we all have to go through spiritually on this journey. So
but if you look at any retrograde planet, right? If you had to look at it with a high-speed the microscope, right? It looks as if it's going backwards.
Yeah.
But in fact, it's not. It's just slowed down.
Yeah.
So, but it has the perception of reversing. So, which really is such a good, because when we're looking again at the chakra system, each chakra has a planet aligned to it, right? If you're looking at the ancient chakra, if you're looking at the ancient astrology, the medieval astrology, they only worked with 7 planets, 7 everything. It's very different to the astrology. And I've had the privilege of studying medieval astrology as well. It's amazing. They work with the sacred numbers 3, 4, 7, and 12 because it's incredible. It's a very beautiful type. But anyway, so every chakra is aligned, every planet is aligned to a chakra. And so when you're actually looking at how all of that works together, you also see how at the end of the day, it all comes together, right? So when you're working with all of that stuff, it's all hand in hand. Working in alignment. Yeah.
Everything is working for your highest good if you allow it to work for your highest good.
Absolutely, yeah.
And also when the planets are then in retrograde, it's about looking at, because then if you, especially with Mercury, because it's looking, the perceived reverse is the inner dialogue. And was I hanging there for a while? So the perceived reverse is the inner dialogue. So when Mercury is in retrograde and everything seems to be going wrong with your communication issues, because that's really what it's about, because Mercury is a messenger of the gods, right? So it's your inner communication or your inner dialogue with yourself that creates those misfunctionings, actually. So it's a very good time to go and look at your inner dialogue with yourself. How are you thinking? What are your thoughts towards yourself? How are you thinking about projects? Slow down, calm down, allow yourself to receive, allow yourself to project, allow yourself to recalibrate for the next couple of weeks. And then when Mercury's done its thing, then it's like, okay, time out, my, study time. It's almost like that's inner study time.
Yeah, I love that taking it's a forced pause sometimes for you to absolutely when you I know for me just the study time, even when I'm if you think about being in school, we're interstudying ourselves during Mercury retrograde. But when I'm researching, I have to turn everything off. I put my phone in the other room so I don't get distracted, so that I can focus on my research. Well, same thing with Mercury retrograde with your inner work. Sometimes it's for you to pause for a moment to be able to study yourself and reflect on yourself. Yeah, absolutely. I was laughing the other night. All of my apps just disappeared on my iPhone. Like all of a sudden there were no apps. And I was like, oh, that's actually kind of pretty without apps. It's just a beautiful little painting. Like, I was like, I'm just gonna leave it for a minute because that's actually really nice to not have any like Twitter app, Instagram app, like it's just really a pretty picture. So I'm just gonna leave it before I turn
exactly.
I was like, thank you, Mercury. It's a beautiful picture you're giving me. So
I always see Mercury retrograde, because it's all about communication. But when it goes into retrograde, it's all about listening. It's what's going inside, that introspection that Shanti is speaking about. It's then when we stop and we have to listen to what things are stirring, what needs to change, what needs to happen. So it's a time of listening for me usually.
Yeah. Listening is nice when you can just listen. It's a nice time. So I think the moral of the story is everybody always gets nervous about Mercury retrograde. Don't be. It can be a very magical time. It can be a very, very magical time in your life. And last night we had a crazy full moon, blood moon, and an eclipse. And wow, what an incredible energy to be living through. The planets, the galaxies, the cosmos, they're all working with us. And so, as I was saying before we started filming with Morné, when you got popped off, Shanti, I was saying one of my favorite quotes I've recently heard is, "We can't control the waves, so we learn how to surf. We just learn how to flow with the waves," right? So yes, if you're feeling frustrated by Mercury retrograde, don't be frustrated. It just
surrender.
Time. Yeah, just surrender to it. Just is what it is. But anyway, to a darker topic now, which is a continuation of what we spoke about last week. And so for everybody watching right now, if you didn't see the episode last week, I would suggest go back and watch it after we're done with this episode so that you kind of get the bigger picture. And this all started for me. Of course, I'm a weirdo that likes to study macabre topics and weird stories and folklore anyway. And I had stumbled upon a few weeks ago, we talked about when I was brushing up on the Codex Gigas, which we talked about, I stumbled upon a book called the Necronomicon, which we continue to talk about. And now all these old spell books have just like dropped in my lap. And I'm not someone, I believe that everything in life that happens always happens in divine timing, whether it is perceived to be bad or good. It's always happening when it's supposed to be happening. And I want to make it clear that I'm not the end all be all. Like, my opinions on this work are my opinions based off of my research. People are welcome, obviously, to have different opinions. This is just something for us to look at so that we can start looking at a whole, our whole world, and where perhaps we've fallen for the illusion. And we spoke a lot about King Solomon last week, because the Grand Grimoire, like the Keys of Solomon and the Lesser Key of Solomon, is a spell book that was allegedly written by King Solomon. And when we talk about spell books here, now magic, in my opinion, is just magic. There's both good and bad, especially on a planet like Earth, that's third density, where this is third density planets are planets of polarity. So there's always going to be dark and light, right? There's always going to be both. Now, from what I understand, us compared to other third density planets, we're like the Harvard of third density. We took the darkness to a whole new level on planet Earth and maybe some other third density planets, but that's okay. That's okay. And so I want to bring up too, before we get into the Grand Grimoire, we're going to talk a little bit about demonology as well, because that's an important side topic to understanding these spell books. Because these spell books, like we spoke about last week with King Solomon is venerated by the Christian faith, the Jewish faith, and the Freemasons. But the Freemasons seem to be the ones who actually truly understand who Solomon was, whereas maybe in the Jewish faith, the Christian faith, we've been a little bit duped. Okay, and so these spell books, especially the Grand Grimoire, are like the Mac Daddy of spell books. As the Grand Grimoire is also known as the Red Dragon. And it's called the Red Dragon because this particular spell book is about conjuring Lucifer. All right. And so that's what I want you guys to understand. That's why we're going to talk a little bit about demonology, because the people who are using these spell books are not pipsqueaks. They're not like teenage girls who just think it'd be cool to do some spells. You know, these are high level witches and warlocks, high level. And so that's why we're going to get a little bit into the history of demonology and what all that means. Now, there is a missing book of the Bible that is also called the Testament of Solomon. And in the Testament of Solomon, just so you guys are aware, do your own research, but the Testament of Solomon does say, as we talked about last week, that Solomon used demons to build the temple, which we did speak about last week. He does tell that testament that that's what happened. And it also says that Solomon's God, the God that Solomon fully worshiped, was Moloch. So I'm going to let everybody just kind of take that in. It was never source. It was never source. It was always Moloch, which is the same God that a lot of our world leaders worship. I'll be careful how I say this, but a few years ago, there was a big release of all these emails. I read through them. I'm sure a lot of our viewers read through them. And they talked a lot about Moloch. So it's the same type. And these were high level. I'm not going to say the names because we're on YouTube, but you guys know who we're talking about. These are high level politicians, especially in the United States, that were doing ceremonies to Moloch. So was King Solomon. Okay. This is why we see the idea of in his temple, there were sacrifices having in front of the Ark of the Covenant, all that kind of stuff. Again, he was appointed to the king from his dad, King David, because he was the only one of his sons who was continually doing these sacrifices. So it all starts to make sense. Again, Solamic magic, there's an actual word named after King Solomon, which is called Solamic magic. And this is specifically means to summon demons. Specifically. So if a wizard or a witch is talking about, hey, we're going to do some Solamic magic tonight, they're saying we're going to go summon some demons tonight. All right. This is again considered a high level of magic. It involves invocation, which is calling the name of the demons, and it also involves conjuring, which, lack of a better word, is they're making a pact with the demon. Okay, so just so you guys know that. Now let's talk a little bit about demonology. So demonology is at the heart of the spiritual warfare, okay? For the dark side, it is a way to control the demons. For the light side, it's a way to understand the enemy. So a lot of good people also study demonology in order for them to understand what they're up against. There is also something called angelology, which I had never heard of before. But I think because angels are benevolent, you don't really need to study them because they're going to be honest and forthright anyway. But one of the scholars I listened to a lot of podcasts, a lot of conversations about people who study this for a living. So that in the demonology world, a lot of these scholars understand, or demonologists, as they're called, understand that demons are more complex than angels. And this is why they're more complex to understand than angels. Every single living being that Source created has been given the power of free will, including human beings. And as we know, if you are following along from a biblical perspective, we know that demons are what? They're fallen angels. And this also correlates to philosophies like in the Law of One, where they say that the darkness cannot create anything. Only the light can create stuff. Okay. That's like, you think of like even photosynthesis. And so we've spoken about that a lot. Like I have the Ankh here. A lot of people think the Ankh is bad. No, this is good. Like, a lot, I have pyramids here. Like this, everything was created by the good. And then it got stolen and inverted for the bad. Right. But we're taking it back. So, so demons are the same thing. Demons were created by God as angels originally. So what does this mean? This means that they have the powers that angels have, the same powers of the heavenly realm. And they also at one point had a direct connection to Creator. So they understand things beyond they are like angels, they are more complex. We're all very complex spiritually, but we're in a very dense human planet. And so our ability to understand things in the human mind doesn't match their ability to understand in the heavenly realms. And because they came to the heavenly realm from the heavenly realms, they still hold the powers that the angels do. For example, we know that angels also have the ability to shapeshift, right? A lot of people have had experiences with angelic beings that came into human form for a brief second to catch a child or to stop, they have the ability to shift and change in order to do what they need to do. A lot of humans know how to do that as well. I think most people watching know that they know that too. Well, so do demons. Demons can also shapeshift. And I think we've spoken about this a lot of, when I have seen demons before, many demons before, when I see demons, I see them in their gross, I see the red eyes, the teeth, all that kind of stuff. But a lot of times demons will produce what you say, Shanti, that fake light, right? They'll come to you very alluring. I imagine that
it's the devil's bling. It's just a little bit too much bling.
Yeah. I imagine that if Lucifer were to appear right now, he would probably be like Don Juan Suave, like, heartthrob, probably very attractive, very sexy, very charismatic, right? They know how to play on that. They know how to play on your free will because they, by their power of free will that God gave them as well, decided to go to bunk the system and to follow Lucifer, right? We have this story in the Bible about the Watchers who created the Nephilim. I've covered that on my channel before. I'm still a little bit, there's still I still have some questions around that because I have been told by many people that Nephilim, just like human beings, can't be classified as just bad because they all had free will too. And so we have to be very careful about specifically saying that one group of entities is just bad, that they're so, but we know that the Watchers, they did come down and mate with the women. I also believe there was extraterrestrial involvement in that as well. So this is just kind of what we have to understand about demons. And I think with that level, it's not necessarily respect in the sense that we venerate demons, but respect in the sense that we understand that these are very, very powerful entities. Okay. And there's different hierarchies of demons. Some demons, as some demonologists have said, some demons are kind of like the pipsqueak demons, and they'll fold really fast. And some demons will end up like dropping their weapons and go back to God and become an angel. They'll ask for forgiveness and they'll become an angel again. Like there's a whole little ecosystem here that's working within these heavenly realms that we are just scraping the surface with. Well, so if we think about polarity, if we think about the archangels like Michael, Gabriel, so on, we also have what we call archdemons. So where there is a Michael, there's a counterpart. Where there is a Gabriel, there's a counterpart. Gabriel is like Mercury. He is the angel of communication. He's the message. He gives a lot of communication to people. Like sometimes if I'm about to cover a topic that I'm a little bit shaky on, I'll ask Gabriel to come in and give me the right words to say on a show. All right. He is that light. He's the one that came to Mary. And the Bible was like, behold, don't freak out. I'm just an angel. Don't crap your pants. I don't want to scare you. I'm just an angel, but I'm going to give you a message, right? That's Gabriel. So there's also a demon. That is also the counterpart to Gabriel with messages, where I think it's what Raphael is the archangel of healing. You've also got a demonic one, right? And so we have to understand that where there's one, there's always a mirror opposite with almost equal power. Yeah. So that's why we've been in this battle for so long, is because they're like literally mirroring each other on different polarized ends of the spectrum. Okay. So like God, angels and demons and Lucifer are also omnipresent. I think we all know that. They can be in multiple places at once. Now, in some of these books, we see that there are, so I think we spoke about this last week, Baal, one of the big demons we see a lot in the Old Testament. I think he also demanded blood atonement as well, just like Moloch, but he's also known as Yahweh. I think we spoke about that last week. So we have to be careful about where we're being tricked into certain names. Yahweh is Baal. Now, in the Lesser Key of Solomon, like we spoke about last week, you had the 7 princes, and I'm going to bring this back up again so we can look at this from the demonologist perspective. So you have the 7 princes of hell, and these also correlate with the 7 deadly sins. Now, before I say this, I'm going to say that my perception on sin is just to miss the mark. So, oh, we lost her. Did the power go?
Loud shedding. She's still there.
All right, so I'll just keep talking. So the 7. So my perception of hell, our sin, is that it's just to miss the mark. So if you make a mistake in your life, let's say like you, so what's one of the 10 commandments? Don't have an affair, right? That's one of the 10 commandments. Well, let's say you have an affair, your marriage broke up, you marry the person you had an affair with, but you learn from that, and you learn from the pain you cause other people and the pain you cause yourself. Well, then was that a sin? If you learn from it and you grew and there's a happy outcome and there's a divine plan behind it, not necessarily, right? You agree to go through these things in order to grow and learn. So my definition of sin, it's not black or white, right? It's a very gray concept. So when we talk about the 7 deadly sins, though, correlating with these 7 princes of hell, what I think we're looking at too is this, these angles of the human ego. And a lot of times demons are able to get in and work for people, are being able to be allured by black magic because of the ego, right? And so if we look at the 7 princes of hell, we have Lucifer, who is pride. We have Mammon, that is greed. Asmodeus is lust. Leviathan is envy, and Leviathan is also a sea serpent, which also goes back to the Necronomicon spell book, which the Cthulhu was also a sea serpent. Beelzebub is gluttony, Satan is wrath, and Belphegor is sloth. And so if we let's look at lust for now. Let's look at Asmodeus, who is the demon of lust. Now, yes, that's one of the 7 deadly sins. However, as we just said, if Lucifer were to appear, he would probably appear as a very charismatic, sexy individual that's going to allure you with lust. If you are able to recognize that for what it is and control the ego, it's not going to affect you. Yeah.
Exactly.
But if that's a weakness for you and you have not tapped into that and killed it yourself, you can easily fall into this really gross type of behavior with what we're going to get into with this demonic stuff. So we also have the 4 kings of hell, or of this demon world. These are these correlate with directions: north, south, east, and west. So Zimnir is of the north, Corson is of the west, Gap is the south, and Amaimon is the east. Okay, so you have all these different, and when you start to think about the complexity of this demographic of where these beings are, I think you also understand why the dark ones, the controllers, the Lucies, pick particular places in ley lines to do particular rituals depending on what energy they want to harness from what demon. Now, if you ever read the Apocryphon books, which Apocryphon means just a hidden teaching, there's many Apocryphon books that were removed from the Bible. They were actually in the Bible up to the point of King James, which we have covered on this channel. He removed them from the Bible when he decided to do his King James Bible. Apocryphon just means hidden teaching. And they, to me, are some of the most interesting books that were removed from the Bible. They're really complex because they get deep into the teachings of how spirituality works in the polarity. Okay. And so like in the Apocryphon of John, for example, John tells us that the devil, Lucifer, the leader of the dark world, and God, the source creator God, are very, very equally matched in power. The only thing, the big difference between the two is that source creator God is source creator God, meaning that this is
infinite.
Yes, and he can give that spark of life. That spark of light that you have inside of you comes from source. Lucifer cannot create that spark of light because Lucifer was created by God, right? He was God's most favorite angel. So God was the one that gave him a spark of life. He can't create that spark of light. Only source can. And so when we look at these rituals that the Lucies do, that's why they have to do offerings. I'm careful about what I say, offerings of pure humans or animals, particularly little people.
Life essence.
Yeah. Because they're
I want to also just correct you. It's not like God gave him a spark of life. It's like more like he was created out of God's spark of life.
Yes, exactly. Correct. Yes, correct. Yes. But he can't give that. So and in order for him to be infinite with God and to continue harnessing his own energy, he has to feed off of that life spark. So that's why they're offering, it's basically, I don't want to sound rude. I'm trying to think about how I say this or working around YouTube. It's basically like the Lucy's are giving Lucifer a cookout. You know, they're going to give him some food like this is. And so what does Lucifer do in return? He gives them power, money, things they want, greed, if infinite abundance on this. And this also then gets back into the Grand Grimoire. So the Grand Grimoire allegedly was found in 1750 in the tomb of King Solomon. Now, I'm going to go ahead and give a disclaimer because I know Shanti and I are going to be doing some stuff on Tartaria. I don't take dates seriously anymore because we have no effing clue what the real timeline is. And I don't even take location seriously anymore. We have I don't think anywhere they've told us why is there a effing Isis temple in the Grand Canyon? Why is there a Shiva temple in the Grand Canyon? Nothing we've been taught about our history is accurate, including locations. And so I'm just giving you guys what we know so far. This information could change. It probably will change when we have more of an understanding of what actually happened. So 1750, apparently they found King Solomon's tomb and they found the Grand Grimoire within his tomb. Now, this I do believe. The original copy of the Grand Grimoire is at the Vatican in the Vatican Library. That I very much believe. But there are copies out there. Yeah, of course.
It would be there.
Who else would want it? Of course they wanted it. So they're like, "Ooh, dibs, that's mine." I called it. It's mine. So there are copies floating around out there of the Grand Grimoire. I'm assuming, though, the one that's being held.
Interested to know, sorry to interrupt you there, what is that printed on? Because a couple of other times we first had the donkey skin, then we had the human skin. I'd be interested to know what it's the original one.
Somebody sent me something when I first started, and let me see if I can find it, where they talked about it, if I still have it, about there's kind of a, here, is this it? No, about how this book can't be, here it is. Okay, so the Grand Grimoire, the Red Dragon, Gospel of Satan, the Gospel of Satan was found in Jerusalem in 1750 in the tomb of Solomon, written around 1200 AD. Again, don't take dates too seriously, guys. This book is said to contain writings on how to summon Satan and other demons. Also, it's said to contain the location of different biblical artifacts, and that the book cannot be damaged, cannot be burnt, cut, torn, or destroyed. Now, where can we find this mysterious, powerful book? It's found in the secret Vatican archives. So I'm assuming it's probably written on some type of skin as well, but it can't be burnt, it can't be destroyed. And it's hidden at the Vatican archives. Now, it's interesting.
I'm wondering if that's because they've put some kind of chemicals on it, or if it's because of the voodoo they've used.
What's interesting is that book says that it shows you where a lot of these biblical artifacts can be found. And as we said, guys, we've been led to believe that some of these missing gospels that they said they found in Egypt or in the Nag Hammadi Library were actually found here in the American continent, which is interesting. And so if the controllers, this is just a hypothesis because we don't know for sure, but if the controllers had this book that's telling them where these things were, then go get it and move it to confuse us.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to what we're going to be doing on Tartaria, I've got to say. And we're going to start that next week, Wednesday, guys. I think, right, Bryce?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing cold therapy on Wednesday, cold water therapy. I'm sorry, that is something I know zero about because I am such a little wuss when it comes to getting cold.
Listen, I am too. So if I can get my ass in that freezing refrigerator, anybody can. But yeah.
Okay.
Actually, speaking of
challenge accepted.
Yes.
You know that I'm game for a challenge. It's winter, but already in the morning I wash my face with ice blocks. So I do wash when I get up in the morning. Yeah, I wash my face with ice blocks.
That's a beauty secret, ladies or men. If you ever wake up and you're tired and your eyes are puffy or you look exhausted, just get a bowl of ice water, pull your hair back and dump your face in there, come up, dump again, and just keep doing it for like 5 minutes and it will take all the swelling down. So just for vanity, just a little preview for Wednesday. But yeah, well, actually cold therapy actually started in Egypt. So it was an Atlantean practice. So definitely something our ancient forebears knew about. But yeah, with Tartaria, when we start doing Tartaria, guys, it's going to blow your mind on like questioning everything in history because, and I really want to give that disclaimer. Everything I'm telling you guys about the Grand Grimoire is what we have. But I know it's probably not 100% accurate because they have their textbooks, the controllers that they study from, and we have ours. And the two are very different. I've never seen theirs, but we're trying to figure out together what maybe theirs might say. Right. And so take all these dates and these locations with a grain of salt. The most important thing I think we need to understand from this is we need to question everything even the church has told us about certain people. Not to idolize any person, especially biblical characters, because I mean, in the Testament of Solomon, he basically is like, y'all, he's saying to you, he worships Moloch. That's what he's saying to you. In his God is Moloch, a demon. And the Grand Grimoire, actually, there's part of the Grand Grimoire. Now, I'm going to make a disclaimer here too. When I study these books, like with the missing books of the Bible, I read them thoroughly. I listen to people speak on them. I research stuff, but with these books, because of the level of danger around these books, the level of sorcery around these books, I don't read them. I just study what they're about. And I want to make that disclaimer because there is only so far I'm willing to go in my own research because I don't want to invite anything into my home or into anybody else's life accidentally. I'm very cautious. But we do need to be. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there. If you guys want to read it, that's totally your prerogative, but just be very careful. I would definitely look at people's testimonies who have read these books and sees, what these books come with. So what the Grand Grimoire starts off saying, and this is actually in the Bible too, is that this planet, the God, and now we've spoken about this, the God of this planet of Earth is Lucifer. The Bible says this as well. This was the agreement that was made between Source Creator and Lucifer. And in a bigger picture, if you step back and look at it, it was so that we would have a polarized planet so that us humans could go through levels of understanding and levels of having our free will challenged, our consent challenged, that we would be able to pick for ourselves what path we wanted to take. All right.
It's also interesting because really, if we look at life on Earth, it's all about polarization. So it's about experiencing that contrast.
Yeah.
The contrast between, as you say, all the demonics have a counterpart. All the angels have a counterpart. Yeah. I've had many experiences speaking to people who will tell you about seeing their angel and their demon. Yeah. So it's kind of we ourselves have these extremes within us.
Yes.
So we come here to experience the extremes.
Absolutely.
We really do. Earth is all about that. And you're so right. Because remember, when God kicked Lucifer out of heaven, supposedly, however he did it, he gave him domain over Earth. Mm-hmm. So I keep saying to people, those of us who don't believe that Luciferians are in charge of this planet, please understand that Lucifer was given domain by God. If you read the Bible.
It's in the Bible, yeah.
Yes. Lucifer was given domain over this planet. So it makes perfect sense that all the powerful positions on this planet, and stuff like that we have had, for example, Lucy has absolutely identified human weakness, which is greed. So it's money, power, greed, basically. So he has completely tapped into that. And that's why when Lucifer doesn't want your money or your bank account. Lucifer whacks you in your bank account when he wants stuff from you, because he knows that's where it hurts the most, and that's where he's bound to get what he wants from you. But there's a reason it's called selling your soul.
Yep.
That's what he wants.
That's what he wants.
For what? Exactly. So that, and then they tap into that human weakness, and that's how they reach us. So basically, when we've transcended that, Lucifer is here to test us on our fears, literally. Yeah. So when we've lived enough lives on earth, transcending fear and understanding fear, the acronym false evidence appearing real. Now, what does that mean? What does that really mean? And we understand how to turn our fears into force.
Yeah.
Then we've transcended Lucifer's hold on us.
Yeah.
That's when we move into fifth dimension.
That was one of the points of Mary Magdalene's gospel, where she talked about the wisdom of the wrathful person, that when you are struck with these low vibrational qualities that Lucifer brings around, if you use them properly, it can actually, it's that wisdom that you're created that actually ups your vibration.
Yeah, it's a catalyst for that wisdom, because that's where the alchemy lies. You see, that's what the alchemy is to understand that pain, to understand that suffering, that anger in the moment, not to react to it, but allow it to teach you what it needs to teach you about whatever the situation at hand is, and to always remain teachable, always, no matter what.
And if you do it in that way, Lucifer truly becomes the bringer of light.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of the like in the Hindu faith, a lot of the word demon is short for demonstrator. You see this in like the Ramayana with Ravana, who was the demon that captured Sita, and in that story, he's the 10-headed demon who you cut one head off and it just grows back, and he represents the ego, and the whole story is a metaphor of you facing your own ego, your own demon, and learning how to tame it. And so you can't, and if
transmute it.
Yes.
See, because really think about what the ego is, okay? And the ego wants to hold on to life at all cost. It cannot die.
Yeah.
So ego is that, and we look at the Lucys, why do they grow so old? Why do they take the juicy chrome? To live longer and to have this eternal youth and, whatever. So it's all really about fear of dying, fear of death. Okay. It's all about the physical for them.
Yeah.
So if we can make friends with our ego, you see, because then human ego transmutes and becomes universal ego. Okay. And that's really stepping into full understanding of the universal consciousness. So then our fears suddenly become our understandings. And then we understand, oh my gosh, it's not me I'm of service to, but I am, and because ego is a fear of being less than. Think about that. No matter what, in every situation, it's a fear of not being enough or being less than. So ego is always going to want more, or be more powerful, or have more money, or have more friends, or have more, whatever it is. Okay, that's ego. And when you understand, and when you make friends with your ego, and you tell your ego you're not dying, we're just going to shapeshift you into something a whole lot more amazing. That is, an ego is limited, you see, and that's the difference between God, source creator, and Lucy.
Yeah.
Lucy is limited. Lucy is not unlimited. The Lucys are limited in what they can do. It might seem unlimited, but they work with unlimited energy, because God's energy, the creative force, is unlimited. So we know by now they will take whatever is there and invert it and turn it into the opposite of itself.
Yeah.
Okay. So it might seem unlimited. It might seem unlimited, the power they have, but they have the power within, let's say, the frame here. And that's what they work with. But that's all we're focusing on, really. And we're thinking, oh my gosh, they've got us, they've got us, they've got us. Without realizing that when we tap into that divine source, you are unlimited.
Oh, yeah. Well, you literally just summed up the Grand Grimoire, because that's what the Grand Grimoire says. But he said, they say it like, they basically say in the Grand Grimoire, the synopsis is, they say, y'all, this is Lucifer's planet. So you know what you should do? You should just turn your back on source, commit to Lucifer, and it'll make your time here a lot more pleasurable. Right? So that's what the Lucifers are doing. They're holding on to the life of the mortal life. And this is what I've talked about this when we first started doing the missing books of the Bible, the Gnostic text. This is what the Gnostics knew. The Gnostics knew that the original Christians, they knew that this earth was Lucifer's domain. And they knew that, I mean, if you ever read the Gospel of Judas, which, you know, we all think, you know, the Judas, the traitor, whatever, the Gospel of Judas was like an op-ended piece that someone was saying, all these disciples, their churches are going to turn into satanic churches because they can't resist the temptations of Lucifer, which we've seen happen. It's true. We've seen it happen. We call it prophecy. That's what happened. And that's what the Grand Grimoire says. That's the logic of the book. The logic of the book is like, you're in a prison planet. Your prison ward is Lucifer. If you want a comfortable time here, denounce your source creator and worship Lucifer, and your time here will be amazing. Like King Solomon, he got all that money through taxing because he served Moloch. He got 1,000 women, 700 wives, 300 concubines. Hello, that's the transporting of humans against their will. We'll put it that way.
Human transportation.
Yes, human carpool. It's the human carpool. You know, against their will. You know, I don't know any woman that would want to be in a harem of 300 women. I don't know any woman that wants that. You know, but that was because he bowed down to Moloch. Yeah, exactly. You know, so that's what this Grand Grimoire is telling you. It's saying, listen, so so you're going to denounce God. Well, let me teach you now how to summon Lucifer. We're going to just skip everyone else and we're going to go straight to the big cheese, right? And I always I remember studying John Milton's Paradise Lost in school. And I know John Milton was part of the group. We know that, but it always cracked me up because it starts with like Lucifer, like laying on his back, like he just got thrown down to earth and he's like laying in water on his back. Like, well, shit, like here I am, you know? And so that's when it all started. And so they're teaching you, and I know I sent you a video, Morné, which we'll get to, of Chuck Schumer, so you guys can see how this is being practiced. But so, with the Lesser Key of Solomon, we talked about the 72 demons. Well, once you've now graduated to the Grand Grimoire, the Mac Daddy, you're now working with an inversion of 72, which is 27 demons. And this is like, from the way I see it, this is like Lucifer's main group, his main gang. Like these are the inner circle.
27 is very interesting because as you're saying that now, that immediately brings to mind for me the 27-year club. When you're looking at a lot of these movie stars or actors or whatever that actually left, and I think they called it the 27 Club, didn't they?
Janis Joplin, Amy Winehouse, yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well, that's the Saturn return too. That's but 27. Yeah. And these are so they're rule. So the 27 have 4 rulers. So there are 4 rulers. And I see this almost like, if we're looking at like a corporation, it's like almost like the HR department. You know, you've got these 4 like HR, and these are like these are like the people that directly are the demons that directly serve under Lucifer. So if Lucifer's the CEO, these are the CFOs. Now, one of these is Jehovah. How many Christians do we know that think Jehovah is the name of God?
Oh, goodness.
Jehovah is a Mac Daddy rep for Lucifer. He's a fallen angel. These are like the inner.
That's crazy. So all the Jehovah's Witnesses knocking on our door, trying to convert us, are absolutely. Do you have Jehovah's Witnesses knocking on your door?
Oh yeah, I just tell them I practice yoga and they go away.
Is it a thing that's common there as well, or is it just
here? Oh yeah. Well, you look at, I've actually studied, just for shits and giggles, because I'm a nerd. Before I was on YouTube, I studied Jehovah's Witness. I studied the Mormon faith just to learn, just because I just like to learn. And I watched a lot of their like Watchtower stuff, and holy shit, my heart bleeds for people who grow up in that, and we'll call it what it is, a cult. They can't, it's so awful, the things that they are put through. That's not a loving God. So when I saw the name Jehovah, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Absolutely.
It's
Wow.
dog eat dog. Like, and they practice things like, if someone leaves the fold, leaves the faith, then they can't talk to their family anymore. Like, they practice that isolation. There's a lot of that kind of stuff. It's crazy. But that, when I saw that, I was like, yeah, okay. That seems right. You have Ariel, part of the Elohim. Now we know that Elohim are multiple. Yes. So there's multiple. And so there are good Elohim as well. So this is the section of the Elohim that followed Lucifer, right? And then we have Ardenu. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but Ardenu.
Weren't there 7 Elohim that
Possibly.
began, that originally God sent down to earth? There were 7 Elohim.
Yeah, some of them, and that's what I was saying with the Nephilim. So we look at like the Watchers, because the Elohim are like the Watchers. Some of them are not bad. Some of them stayed within the realms of the light. Some of them went to the darkness. So we can't generalize by saying like all of the Elohim are bad. No, not all the Nephilim were bad. We have to be more aware of the complexities of this situation that we've got going on. All right, so we're learning how, now this again is also considered, this grimoire and this darkness is considered an occult science. Now I want to remind everybody again, the word occult itself is not bad. Occult just means hidden. That's all it means. Mm-hmm. And so now we call what these Lucies do as occult, because they're doing the hidden rituals to harness demons for the darkness. But there's also things people do for the light that people don't know about. But I guarantee you, a lot of these missing books, like these grimoires, the Testament of Solomon, the Lucies took them away because they don't want us to know what they're doing, right? Yeah, they want to trick us to harness our energy for their purposes. Now, we even see this with like sex rituals. If you read into like the Magdalene manuscript, like we're looking at on my channel, and you read into some of these, the idea of creating a child when a sperm hits an egg, there's a flash of light, right? There's a beautiful making love. There's a beautiful magic that's happening within the realms of light. But then if we look at the realms of darkness with the succubus and the incubus and the raping of small people for the sake of harnessing that energy in that act, that's for negative. And so we have to just be more aware of what the complexities, so that we understand where this is coming from. Now, I sent you a video, Morné, of Chuck Schumer in the United States Senate. I don't know if people have seen this video before, but this creeped me. And I've seen some pretty wild shit in my life, but this video creeped me out when I first saw it.
Okay, share.
Because you guys are going to see him actually commanding a demon in the Senate, in the U.S. Senate.
So let me just open it up in another player.
Oh, you're okay. You're okay. You're going to, and people might have seen this video because, yeah, Mr. Schumer is a senator here in the United States. He's definitely, I don't need to research. I mean, I think from the evidence speaks for itself that he's definitely in the club of the Lucies. His cousin is Amy Schumer, who is an actress in the United States, a comedic actress. So they have their tentacles everywhere.
It is.
And this was on ABC News, guys. This is this clip was on a mainstream media. And this is Chuck Schumer. I just pointed to my computer like you guys can see it. He's the one walking in. He's chatting to this lady. And there was a demon sitting in his seat and he told him to move over. Did y'all see that? I think it'll replay it. Here it is again. Watch when he addresses his seat.
Wow.
Wow.
Now, I'm not a gambling lady, but if I had to bet, I would bet that Senator Schumer is very well versed in the Grand Grimoire and the Lesser Key of Solomon and the Keys of Solomon and probably the Necronomicon. And the fact that the demon obviously got up and moved means that he has some control over that demon.
Yeah, crazy. Is that all?
That's it. Just showing him. And they had this is on ABC News. And when this happened, this went viral here. People were like, who is he talking to? Like, what is this?
Wow.
So this is what these 3 spell books really encompass, guys. And like last week, if you missed last week, we talked about the Seal of Solomon, his ring with a hexagram that holds the power. Again, just to remind you guys, I know there's a big thing is a cognitive dissonance where you're seeing the truth, but you've been told a lie. And so there's a tug of war happening. And we've been taught to venerate this guy. We've been taught to venerate King Solomon. I would tell you to venerate no human, just align with source. Because we don't know who these people are. We weren't, I mean, from what some of us could have been around King Solomon, we probably don't remember that life. But as far as now, we weren't around King Solomon. We didn't see, so we have to look at this stuff, let the evidence speak for itself. And in his own testaments, which they pulled out of the Bible, Solomon's not lying to you. The church is. Solomon's telling you exactly who he is. He worships Moloch. He summons demons. The Freemasons know this. Hence why they venerate him as the greatest sorcerer who ever lived, the greatest wizard who ever lived, warlock who ever lived. That's why their temples look just like King Solomon's temples. Wow. So we just have to be smart about this. I think that's the biggest, in my opinion, that's one of the biggest lessons of this Great Awakening. Your gut is the only true thing you have. Listen to your gut. Even if your gut that's not making sense in that moment, just listen to it anyway, because that's your connection to God.
Absolutely.
Another thing is also don't be scared of the darkness within yourself.
No.
Because realize that by being scared to this darkness inside of ourselves, we give these other loosey-goosey chicken shit demons all the power to come over and play with us. But if we just acknowledge it, doesn't mean we have to be perfect, but acknowledge our guilt, acknowledge our fears, acknowledge our resentments and envies and lusts and stuff like that. Just be aware of our own darkness and know that we also have the opposite, the light. And I think that's how we can navigate through this stuff. But we should stop judging and hiding away from the darkness, and also not be scared to go walk in the light now and again. So I think it's really weird. At that place, we'd have to realize, like, inside of us both exist. Yeah. And we choose who's got the power.
Yes. Yeah. And sometimes we have to, and I love Shanti, I've said this a lot, like you say, we came here to learn who we aren't. And I will say, I always get mad about the whole love spell thing, because I think that's really pathetic when people do love spells. And y'all, just think about it this way. I know I, for one, I don't even know how to do a love spell. And I've had some pretty attractive men in my life, in my bed. I'm just going to be honest. So I've never had to use a love spell. So let's just laugh at them for that, because I did that myself. Not any help from demon to do that. So we can just laugh at, and that's one thing that demons don't have too, is they don't have a sense of humor. They don't know how to laugh. They don't know how to laugh. They don't know how to, that's something that comes directly from, God, I think source God is funny. I think God has a sense of humor. Oh, yes. Have you seen our president of the United States right now? Tell me that's not.
That's definitely God having some fun there. That's for sure. Wow, very interesting. I've loved this actually, Bryce. This has been a really cool convo.
Yeah. Well, next week we're going to move into Moses.
Oh, yes.
Okay, you got some spell books too, guys. It's just the gift that keeps on giving in these books. Oh no, she froze. And she told me she had something really important to say.
Yeah. Wow. Ooh.
Yes. We should take a poll on what she was going to say with our audience.
What was she gonna say?
What was she going to say?
But yeah, it's freaking fascinating. And Moses, yeah, I mean, like water out of the rocks, the 10 Commandments above, 40 years in the desert,
Yes.
shifting tides. I mean, what? There should be more than more to this story.
There is,
I'm sure.
and I'm going into them. Actually, today I'm going to sit down. Oh, now you're at Morné. That's it. That was old Mercury doing its thing. Mercury was like, tee hee hee. So, no, next week we're going to look at some of Moses's spell books, guys. And there is, my friend Stephanie actually did a whole breakdown on who Moses really was. There's a whole breakdown on what Pharaoh dynasty he was actually historically connected to, all that kind of stuff. And we did talk about last week that the 10 Commandments are actually in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, which was written long before Moses went to the mountain. And we know that the Ark of the Covenant, which again connects to Solomon. So it's all connecting, guys. It's all connecting. And I just want to say too, for people that might feel triggered by this, if this information is triggering, good. That means there's something to be explored within you. And it doesn't take away, at least in my opinion, my relationship with God, with Source Creator, has gotten so much stronger during this time. There she is. You paused like this. You were like, what was she going to say?
I gotta tell you, I just had my load shedding, so that's why I was able to disappear into nothingness. We live in Africa. What can I say? Load shedding just happened. I lost my internet.
It's fine. We said Mercury was like, tee. I'm gonna have some fun with him.
Lemonade, man. Mercury's in lemonade.
I need to add with Bryce is saying about triggering, if this stuff is going to trigger you and everything. If your faith gets tested, thank God, every time your faith gets tested, when you get triggered in your faith, it doesn't mean you have to believe it or whatever. It just means, okay, now you have to build a stronger relationship with God. Go sit with it. Let God reveal the truth for you. It's not there. We are not here to trigger you or tell you this is how it is. We're just exploring it. I mean, we are fine with God. I know our relationship with God is fine. It's not for me as well. It's about finding the whole truth, if this is true or not, because for me it's about God is all omnipresent, the love, the compassion. But anyways, if this stuff triggers you, if your faith gets tested, praise God, because this is where God's, okay, cool. Come, my daughter or my son, let's go deeper. Let's be stronger in your faith, So triggers are good.
And my faith has grown stronger during this experience of pulling apart the Bible and reading the missing books. Even though some of the held beliefs I had been taught through Sunday school have been changed, it has deepened my relationship with Source. It's deepened my understanding of the lightness and the dark. And it's deepened my understanding on how us human beings can be swayed by organizations such as the church or government or school. And I have to pull it back and be like, well, whoever, for example, with Solomon, who was the one that told me Solomon was good? God didn't tell me Solomon was good. My Sunday school did, a human did. And it doesn't, again, it's your opinion whether he was good or not, but it just makes you realize where maybe you have been influenced by a human being and not necessarily by Source. Because God, Source Creator, in my opinion, in my experience, is nothing but abundant love. Nothing but abundant, merciful love and light and love that human beings can only just get a glimpse of. And that's our soul that connects to that. And so it's nothing, Source is nothing to be afraid of, nothing to, so if you have fear because your held patterns of thought are being challenged, yes, good. As Morné says, good. Ask God to come in, hold your hand, and let's go deeper. It's all going to be okay. It's all going to be okay. So.
And on that note, not on that night.
It's Mercury and lemonade. It's Mercury and lemonade.
My internet going again. This is hilarious.
We're laughing, guys. I put something on my Twitter about some guy posted like, don't ever trust those tarot astrology girls. They'll wake up one morning and see that the clock says 3:33 in the microwave and break up with you because Mercury is in lemonade or whatever. And I just laughed so hard. I thought it was so funny. So Mercury's in lemonade. Oh, is she frozen again? Well, should we just, I guess, should we just sign out then if she's
Yeah, so everybody, thank you for joining us. If you haven't given us a like or a share, please do. Like, you know, our algorithms are down, we're being blocked. Even I myself couldn't get into the chats. I needed to use a different device. It's like crazy how we're being shadow banned and blocked even in our inside system. So, and move to our Rumble channel because we're going to start moving everything there. Thank you for all you guys' loving support. You know, we're doing this out of the love of our hearts. We want to bring light to the world. We want to expose the darkness. So with your support and your sharing, we couldn't get this message out there at the first place. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you, Bryce, for being here. And looking forward to seeing you, Shanti, on Wednesday.
Yes, Cold Therapy Wednesday.
Yes, and looking forward to the show as well. And sending everybody much love.
Bye, guys.
Ciao.